Alright, so let's explore PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, which are harmful chemicals. It's a group of synthetic chemicals designed to be grease and water resistant that are building up in your body. Now, they are commonly known as forever chemicals due to their strong chemical structure. That means they stay in both the environment and the human body, and have gained attention recently because we're now finding out that about 97% of Americans have measurable levels of PFAS in their body, with similar estimates for global exposure. Unfortunately, they've also been linked to a variety of negative health effects, which we'll be diving into today. So, how did PFAS become so widespread? So PFAS were invented in the 1930s and entered into production for goods around the 1950s. PFAS were widely used in manufacturing due to their effective water and grease resistance, durability, and versatility across various applications, such as non-stick cookware and firefighting foams. Their low cost and limited regulatory oversight further contributed to their popularity, allowing manufacturers to enhance product performance without significant concern for health and environmental impacts. Now, there has been a decline in the blood levels of PFOs and PFOA over the past decade or so due to phasing out of these specific types of PFAs. However, there is around 4,000 different types of PFAs, and there has been an explosion of different types of PFAs being used in manufacturing. So whether our exposure to this broad category of chemicals is decreasing is actually debatable. So what about how PFAS actually enter into our body? How do they actually make their way into our bloodstream and damage our organs and harm our metabolism? Now, PFAS can enter our body through four main ways. Through ingestion of PFAS, for instance, if it is in our water or food or on the cookware we use. It can also be absorbed through the skin and can be inhaled if it's in the dust. The most common way it gets into our bodies is through ingesting it. So what are the main sources of PFAS exposure for the average human? In the literature, four main methods of exposure are noted. Number one, drinking water. Contaminated drinking water is a major source of PFAS exposure, especially for communities near contaminated sites, which are typically manufacturing plants which deal with PFAS production. Next is seafood. Populations that consume large amounts of seafood, particularly near contaminated areas, show elevated PFAS levels. And studies indicate that seafood can account for up to 86% of dietary PFAS exposure, as these compounds bioaccumulate in marine life. And finally, we have cookware and homeware. Non-stick cookware, which is typically made with PFAS due to their high durability. However, this can lead to direct exposure to PFAS. Food packaging, such as disposable food packaging and microwave popcorn bags, may also have some amount of PFAS in them. Importantly, there are some professions which are associated with much higher PFAS exposure, such as factory workers directly involved in the production of PFAS, firefighters, and ski wax workers. So how do they negatively impact the human body, and how do they disrupt human physiological processes? So we can see here the category high certainty and lower certainty. We're seeing for females and males. So we've got thyroid disease, liver damage, increased cholesterol levels, breast cancer, obesity, early puberty onset, inflammatory bowel disease or ulcerative colitis, kidney cancer, and pregnancy-induced hypertension preeclampsia. In males, we can see how it damages the liver, testes, thyroid, the gut, the kidneys, affects cholesterol, and also affects sperm count. And then we can see developmental effects in unborn children. So development, delayed mammary gland development, reduced response to vaccines, lower birth weight, and increased risk of miscarriage. So from this meta-analysis, it's pretty clear the effects are broad-reaching. Now, a proportion of these studies have indicated these effects are in populations who are at greater exposure levels than you or I, for example, near manufacturing plants. However, it is still important to highlight these effects, particularly as we are exposed to these compounds all of our lives. Also, you are by no means guaranteed to experience these things if exposed to PFAS. This meta-analysis is just highlighting findings within the literature. How can you limit this PFA exposure? Well, reducing exposure really comes back to limiting the ways that PFAS actually enter your body. Tap water is a large source of PFAS exposure, but luckily, according to this reverse osmosis filters and two-stage filters, it reduces PFAS level, including Gen X, by 94% or more in water through the small number of two-stage filters tested, which necessitates further testing to determine why they perform so well. Seafood can be a bit trickier to limit. One study indicated that actually boiling or frying fish reduced the PFAS content of the fish, which is very interesting. Finally, non-stick cookware does present a risk of PFAS exposure. So generally using pots and pans made out of stainless steel or cast iron is a good idea. All right, guys, guess what I'm holding in my hands right now? I'm officially holding Catwa Pure, my brand new supplement that I've just formulated that harnesses the power of a powerful herb known as catwaba bark. This herb has been used for centuries to enhance energy, boost libido, and improve mood. You'll definitely want to check this one out, which can add to pretty much any supplement stack or protocol to increase the effects. Definitely check out Catwa Pure. You'll see the QR code flashed on the screen here, which you can learn more. So how can we actually detox our bodies from these PFAS? Now, hardly anyone on the internet has talked about this, but there is only a few methods that has been validated in the literature to actually remove PFAS from your body, which is absolutely amazing since as I mentioned before, the half-life in your body is around 2 to 8 years. Now, just as a side note, we do urinate PFAS out of the body very gradually over time, and they also come out through menstrual blood and breast milk, but not through sweat. So it's probably unlikely that hopping in the sauna would get rid of PFAS. Further, typical detox supplements such as zeolite have not been shown to be successful at reducing PFAS in the human body. So method number one is increasing fiber intake. This study shows that essentially if you eat a higher fiber diet, this is associated with a decrease in several PFAS. The group of people who ate the least amount of fiber, around 8 grams a day, had approximately 15% higher levels of PFOs and PFNA and 10% higher levels of PFOA compared to those that ate 25 grams of fiber per day. The relationship seemed largely linear, so potentially even higher fiber intakes would be associated with lower PFAS concentration too. Method 2 is consumption of cholestyramine, which is a medication that helps lower cholesterol levels in the blood by binding bile acids in the intestines, which are then excreted from the human body. Now, I don't recommend this method, but I do want to highlight it as it was quite interesting. Now, plasma and blood donations are extremely effective at actually lowering the burden of these PFAS on the human body. Now, my favorite method of removing PFAS from the blood is actually plasma donations, followed by blood donations. Now, this research is extremely unknown, but I really hope that after this video, it gets a lot more attention. So please do share this video with friends and family, particularly if they are worried about PFAS exposure. So let's take a look at the study. This particular study, which comes out of Australia, which is where I'm from, is a 52-week open label randomized clinical trial which enrolled 285 firefighters from the Fire Rescue Victoria, all with serum PFAS levels of 5 nanograms per milliliter or higher. Now, participants were assigned to one of 3 groups: donating plasma every 6 weeks, donating plasma every 12 weeks, or serving as an observation group. The primary outcomes measured changes in serum PFOS, PFHSX levels after 12 months, while secondary outcomes included various health assessments. Now, the results indicated that plasma donation significantly reduced PFOS levels by 2.9 nanograms per milliliter and PFHXS by 1.1 nanograms per milliliter, outperforming blood donation. So the mechanism behind this reduction is that PFAs bind to serum proteins in the blood. Therefore, the removal of the blood containing these proteins through donation can lead to gradual decreases of PFAs levels over time. Now, the study suggests that both plasma and blood donations can effectively lower PFAs level in firefighters, highlighting a potential intervention for PFAS exposure management although further research is needed to assess clinical implications. Now, plasma and blood donations are both considered safe for most of the general population and do actually have some health benefits beyond just reducing PFAs in the body. So I'll make a video on this soon. Definitely watch out for that, because I do believe blood and plasma donations can potentially be a very useful biohack depending upon your goals. So that pretty much wraps up today's video on PFAs. If you do have any queries or questions, leave them in the comment section below. Let's get a discussion going. If you have any other methods you have found effective at removing these PFAs, please leave a comment down below. That's it from me today, guys. I'll see you in the next video.